don't you have my biscuit?
Hey everyone, before we get into the video, I just want to say thank you all so much for 25,000 subscribers. I love making these videos, so it means so much to me that you all love watching them. If you aren't already, make sure to subscribe, because things on this channel are only going to get bigger and better moving forward. So ever since FUDW started taking off, a lot of you have given me suggestions for various FU spin-offs you'd like to see. Whether it be FU Francine, FU Muffy, FU Tibble Twins, or FU Mr. Sipple, who was only in like 3 episodes. But easily the most requested review I've gotten is for the season 16 episode, So Funny I Forgot to Laugh. I'll be honest, I was only vaguely familiar with this episode. I was well into high school when this episode aired, and by that point, I had stopped watching PBS for a hot minute. Like most fans of the original seasons, I jumped ship when the show switched over to Flash animation. I knew this was the most hated episode of the show, but it wasn't until I sat down to watch it that I realized just how deplorable these 11 minutes are. Let's not waste any more time and delve right in. This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Make sure to subscribe and help get this video to 4,000 likes. And I say, hey! The episode opens with Sue Ellen getting a package from her pen pal Tenzin, who somehow changed species since his first appearance. Turns out Tenzin sent her a handmade sweater made from yak wool. Wait, so Sue Ellen is a vegetarian but she still supports fur trading? Pick a side, Sue Ellen. Sue Ellen says she used to love the sweater, but now it only reminds her how cruel people can be. Flashbacks ensue. Sue Ellen shows off her yak sweater at school, and Arthur jokes how this makes her look like a sheepdog. This is apparently the funniest crap these kids have ever heard, as even Sue Ellen joins in on the joke. Arthur tries to keep the bit going, as he fails to realize the joke has passed its peak.
Bad dog.
Stop laughing, Buster, it's not that damn funny. At lunchtime, Arthur continues to treat Sue Ellen like a dog, because he's too lazy to think of another joke. Sue Ellen politely threatens to kick Arthur's ass if he doesn't cut it out.
This dog might just get angry and bite you.
Oh, kinky!
Muffy, in a rare moment of kindness, compliments Sue Ellen's sweater and compares her to a model at a fashion show. And then Arthur opens his mouth.
Are you sure it was a fashion show and not a dog show?
Arthur, do you really want to be the one to make Muffy look like the good guy? Arthur has effectively run the joke into the ground, but refuses to let up as he's now hellbent on usurping Buster as the class clown. That afternoon, Arthur defaces Sue Ellen's locker with a picture of her as a sheepdog. Sue Ellen has had enough of Arthur's crap and tells him to knock it off. Arthur tells her to chill out, because it's just a prank, bro. Even Binky is a fan of Arthur's work.
That doesn't look a thing like Sue Ellen. Or a dog.
Binky, I'm not sure you should be complaining about dogs that don't look like dogs. You really want to open that door? The next day, Mr. Ratburn confronts Arthur and tells him to stop bullying Sue Ellen.
But it was just a joke.
But imagine if someone made you feel bad for what you wore.
Oh, do you mean something like this?
Arthur's a
Or this?
Where did you get that weird sweater?
Or maybe this?
Most children begin to lose their baby teeth.
Except Arthur.
We have no tolerance for that kind of behavior here.
Bullshit. Arthur begrudgingly agrees to leave Sue Ellen alone, until Mr. Ratburn tells him he needs to write her an apology. Arthur bitches and moans how it's not fair that he be held accountable for his actions. He blames Sue Ellen for snitching to Ratburn, saying she should have talked to him first.
She could have just told me to stop.
She did tell you to stop. I was there.
No, you weren't. Arthur still blames Sue Ellen for being oversensitive, as he apparently doesn't know the meaning of the word stop. Buster tries to console his best friend, only to get snapped at by the agitated Aardvark.
I'm the oversensitive one.
No, you're not. You're just the weird one.
You take that back!
That night, Arthur writes Sue Ellen a letter saying he's sorry she can't take a joke, and chews her out for telling on him, even though he's been made fun of way more than her. And while he's not totally wrong on that last point, Arthur can still eat my ass. The other kids are shocked to see Arthur being such a jerk.
If I hurt someone's feelings, I write from the bottom of my heart.
No, you fucking wouldn't. Instead of going back to Mr. Ratburn for help, Sue Ellen and the others decide to shun Arthur, but can't even do that right.
We're not speaking to you.
Buster, you just ruined it.
I did? Oh!
Arthur tracks down Sue Ellen and apologizes for making fun of her. Sue Ellen rejects his apology, as Arthur is too prideful to admit he was wrong for saying she overreacted. Arthur is still mad his friends won't talk to him and takes out his frustrations on Sue Ellen. I see Arthur and I have the same process for making thumbnails. He sends Sue Ellen the fraudulent Photoshop and ends up making her cry. Sue Ellen is so upset that she decides to get rid of the sweater. Arthur tries to apologize for sending the photo, only to find the damage is already done. At lunch, Arthur accepts his fate as a bully when the Potts arrive to call the kettle black.
She doesn't want to be in a class with a bully.
Yeah, because it's not like she's already in a class with 3 other bullies. It turns out Sue Ellen asked to switch classes to get away from Arthur. Arthur tries to apologize again, only to realize he's too late. He goes to rescue her sweater from the donations bin as he finally realizes how big of an asshat he's been.
Bad dog! Who's a good sheepdoggy? It was just a joke.
PBS, how are you going to downgrade the animation and still fall back on recycling clips? The next day, Arthur pleads with Sue Ellen not to switch classes, and finally gives her a sincere apology. The two make up as Arthur reveals he's been wearing her sweater the whole time. It would seem all's well that ends well, even though Arthur did irreparable damage to his reputation, and his friends will probably never look at him the same way again. Because while scars fade, you never forget what created them in the first place. So I was originally going to end the video there, but the more I thought about it, the more this episode started to genuinely get under my skin. It'd be one thing if this was just a bad episode. When you've been on the air for 25 years, you're bound to have a stinker or two. But what makes it worse is how PBS acts like this episode is doing kids a favor by teaching them the dangers of being a bully. You know it's bad when SpongeBob of all shows handles this moral better than PBS. Yeah, remember the episode Squirrel Jokes? That episode taught kids that not only will your actions come back to bite you in the ass, but also, if you're going to make fun of someone for the sake of a joke, then you have to go after everyone.
Crabs? Oh, brother, they're so cheap, they can't even pay attention.
It's true! I am cheap!
SpongeBob was by no means an educational show, but at least that show was smart enough to know that punching down for a joke never works. You would think after all the backlash, PBS would be at least a little ashamed of this episode. But no, they even went as far as to turn it into a point-and-click flash game. And let me just say, even as point-and-click games go, this is some of the laziest bullcrap I've ever seen.
It kind of makes you look like a big sheepdog.
Arthur saw that Sue Ellen had forgotten her backpack.
Bad dog. Good one.
Is Arthur laughing with Sue Ellen or at Sue Ellen? How do you know? Was Sue Ellen upset? How do you know?
Why are you asking me?
It literally just goes through the storyboards of the episode with some open-ended question slides thrown in. And once in a while you get to click on a JPEG of the characters to see what they're thinking, as if it wasn't already obvious. I will say though, unlike the episode, which is just bad, this game is hilariously bad. Let me know in the comments if I should do a live stream of this game. As most detractors of this episode have already pointed out, one of the biggest drawbacks is the fact that the main antagonist is Arthur. I get the point they're trying to convey, that a joke can go too far and anyone is susceptible to becoming a bully. But the core concept of Arthur is that he's the morally neutral center of the show. Even when his values get tested, he always returns to true neutral by the end. At least with DW, there's a certain amount of fun to be had watching her be a brat, because you know she's a hyperbolic caricature of a bratty younger sibling. Even characters like Francine, Muffy, and Binky are all exaggerations of asshole archetypes. It's fun to watch these characters be jerks because you know they were designed to be jerks. By making Arthur the bully, the show has just taken the most relatable character and turned him into an asshole. It also doesn't help that after a while, the bullying in this episode becomes unnecessarily cruel. It's one thing to show Binky or Francine threaten to kick someone's ass, but here, Arthur's actions just come off as petty and cowardly, which is honestly more accurate to what bullying is like in real life. I'm also surprised how they never once brought up the fact that Sue Ellen is a Taekwondo prodigy. I feel like there's another version of this episode where she lays out Arthur's ass in the first 2 minutes. When I finished watching this episode, I kept wishing to myself that there was a better version of this story. It's important to teach kids that there are different kinds of bullying, and how even the most well-intentioned joke can get out of hand. And then I realized there is a better version of this episode. As it turns out, the show already did this idea a million times better all the way back in season 2, with the episode simply titled Draw. Let's see how this episode conveyed the moral much better with the added bonus of knocking down Francine a couple pegs. Arthur admits that even though Francine is his friend, she can still be a massive pain in the ass. Even when she's in a good mood, she's still a sore winner and will happily argue her smartest friend into an early grave.
Give up. You can't win. Yes, I can. No, you can't.
The kids at Lakewood Elementary are gearing up for the Teachers' Charity Carnival, where the kids can watch their teachers perform. Though it's not really charity if the teachers have to put on a show to get donations. It just feels like another thankless job on top of their already thankless job. At lunchtime, Francine makes fun of Mr. Ratburn's puppet show.
If you don't laugh, I'll give you extra homework.
Yo, Arthur, you gonna let her diss your father's boyfriend like that? Fern admits she likes the puppet show, and Francine takes things from 0 to 100 real fast.
Anyone smarter than a rock knows those puppet shows are boring kid stuff.
Fern storms out as she refuses to give Francine the satisfaction of watching her cry. Francine then goes the extra mile and steals Fern's dessert.
Guess she didn't want a dessert.
What a bitch. Arthur tells Francine to apologize to Fern. Francine says screw that and continues to make fun of the poor girl.
She'll get over it. What's she gonna do? Be quiet at me? I'm so scared.
Fern nearly burst into tears until she decides to teach Francine why you never fuck with the quiet kid. The next day, Fern is showing off her new story when Francine walks up to Buster and yells in his face for no good reason.
Hey, get out of my way, Buster!
What the hell did I do?
Fern proudly shows off the cartoon she made called Furious Frank, a story about a cow who's pushy, loud, rude, and insulting.
I will fucking kick your ass.
Francine sees through the thinly veiled caricature and calls out Fern for turning her into a joke. Fern tries to play coy and says the cow can't be Francine since Frank is a boy, even though the brain correctly points out that all cows are female.
A cow wouldn't be named Frank. It would be named
Fern's cartoon starts a chain reaction, as the other kids start to make their own Francine knockoffs.
The big clumsy moose with big feet named Franny.
Her feet are named Franny?
Hey, I do the grammar jokes around here. Back off. At lunchtime, the kids compare their drawings as Arthur starts to worry they're being too mean to Francine.
She'll get over it.
Oh, snap.
Arthur goes to check in on Francine, who tells him to go eat an ant sandwich. Oh, so now the show decides to acknowledge Arthur's species. Arthur gives up on trying to comfort Francine and instead enjoys Buster's riff on the blob, which ends with Buster eating the slime monster whole. Gross. Mrs. McGrady grows wise to Francine's misfortune and decides to intervene. Meanwhile, the teachers prepare their carnival acts as Miss Hinckley evades the ever-cheery Miss Sweetwater and the dangerously aloof Principal Haney.
Ready to sing? Come back, Miss Tingley.
She really doesn't get paid enough for this crap. The carnival begins as the kids enjoy the various attractions, like cotton candy sculptures, a Hydra puppet show, and a kissing booth, run by the school nurse. At a carnival for children. Who is this for? Mrs. McGrady gathers the kids in her fortune teller booth to play a prank on Francine. She tells the kids to pull on the string to drench Francine in off-brand Nickelodeon slime. Mrs. McGrady reads Francine's fortune when the girl finally shows her true colors.
I know I shouldn't have called Fern a mouse, but why do they all have to be so mean to me?
The kids are shocked to discover Francine actually has feelings. They decide to abort Operation Slime Time and go to apologize. Mrs. McGrady reminds the kids of the golden rule and decides to dump the slime on herself. See kids, this is why you make friends with the lunch staff. So, how exactly is this episode better than So Funny I Forgot to Laugh? Let's review. Fern only went after Francine after the big mouth meathead made fun of her first, unlike with Sue Ellen, who did absolutely nothing to Arthur. And unlike with Sue Ellen, Fern wasn't exactly punching down, considering how Francine is one of the more popular kids in her class. When Arthur thought the joke might be going too far, Francine blew him off, claiming it didn't bother her one way or the other, unlike with Sue Ellen, who specifically told him to cut the crap. And the kids immediately apologized to Francine once an adult got involved and showed them how their actions have consequences. Whereas Mr. Ratburn's intervention did little to nothing to stop Arthur from harassing Sue Ellen. While Arthur was the only one who thought his jokes were funny, everyone joined in on poking fun at Francine, because they all agreed she deserved to get knocked down a peg. So consider this a bonus, F you Francine. So, is this the worst episode of Arthur? Easily. Is it the worst cartoon ever made? Hardly. There are way worse cartoons that are much more lazy, crude, and despicable than this show could ever be. That being said, it's still disappointing how a show as renowned as Arthur could make this big a misstep. This episode came out during season 16, which was right when they switched over to Flash, so the show already had a couple strikes against itself. And considering this was the final episode of that season, I wouldn't be surprised if this is what led most devout Arthur fans to abandon the show. Yeah, the show kept chugging along for 9 more seasons, but I doubt any of you could name 5 episodes that came out after So Funny I Forgot to Laugh. That doesn't include All Grown Up. Actually, no. I don't think there's any of you that could tell me what happens during the other 9 minutes of All Grown Up. I know we all love this scene, but what the hell happened before that? So while I don't think So Funny I Forgot to Laugh is the worst cartoon ever made, it's easily one of the worst things I've seen in a long while. How horrible is it? Well, let's review. Again. Arthur relentlessly made fun of Sue Ellen's sweater because he thought he could replace Buster as the 3rd grade class clown. He kept berating Sue Ellen even after everyone else stopped laughing. When Sue Ellen specifically told him to stop, Arthur told her to stop overreacting and then got butthurt when she told their teacher. Instead of apologizing to Sue Ellen, Arthur played the victim and blamed Sue Ellen for being a snitch. And again, this probably could have been avoided if Sue Ellen just taekwondo'd his scrawny ass after the opening credits. This led Arthur's friends to turn their backs on him, even though most of them are way bigger bullies than he is. He gave Sue Ellen another half-assed apology, but still refused to admit he was wrong. With all of his friends gone, Arthur took out his frustrations on Sue Ellen and bullied her until she cried. Arthur only realized he pushed things too far after learning Sue Ellen would rather be in another class than have to put up with his bullcrap. And despite all odds, he still managed to salvage his friendship with her after he made one final apology. And while some of you might be content with a simple F you Arthur, I think he deserves something a bit harsher for his calamities. Fuck you, Arthur Reed. Hey everyone, thanks for watching and thank you so much for 25,000 subscribers. Make sure to like the video and let me know in the comments which episode of Arthur I should review next. Shout out to all my lovely patrons. Check out my Patreon where you can get early access to all my videos and can commission me to review your favorite show. If there's a movie or show you want me to review, consider becoming one of my top tier patrons to get priority consideration. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you all next time.
And I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. If you could learn to work and play.